Hi everybody, welcome to this week's Who's Who Storytime. And this week we're going to read a biography that's written in the first person. And the first person means that the book is written in I statements. So the book is written like, I did this, I did that, I saved the day. And I don't like reading those kinds of biographies because when you read them out loud, you assume that personality, which means like you think that I did those things because I'm saying I. It's a little confusing, so I don't like to do it. It's just a really good book, and it's brand new this year. It came out in 2020. It's called Mother Jones and Her Army of Children. It was written by Jonah Winter and illustrated by Nancy Carpenter. And I'm gonna look at the back of the book. It's brand new, so the pages are very stiff. We got it. There is an author's note, pictures of Mother Jones, and a bibliography, so the sources that the author used to write the book, which we love in a Who's Who story time. And I'm gonna read the first paragraph of the author's note to give you an introduction to who Mother Jones was. So the author's note says, the woman the world knows as Mother Jones was born Mary Harris in County Cook, Ireland, on August 1st, 1837, and immigrated with her family to Canada as a teenager. No stranger to hardship, she survived the Irish potato famine, the yellow fever epidemic of 1867, to which she lost her husband, George Jones, and their 4 children, and the Great Chicago Fire of 1871, to which she lost her home and her dressmaking business. My goodness. Around 1880, she got involved with the labor unions that were springing up all over America. By age 60, she had gained such a beloved reputation with workers that she earned the nickname Mother. She was known forever after as Mother Jones, the most dynamic figure in American labor history. So that's who this book is about. And this book is written in first person, like I said. So Mother Jones is telling this story. All right, ready? My name is Mother Jones, and I'm mad. And you'd be mad too if you'd seen what I seen. I've seen coal miners in West Virginia covered with soot, lungs filled with dust, hardly being paid diddly squat, while over yonder the mine owners sit inside their mansions sipping tea, petting their poodles, and getting rich off the sweat of the coal miners. I've seen factory workers getting shot at by company guards just for taking in part in protests, demanding decent pay for their hard work. And I've seen the inside of a jail cell just because I stood up and spoke out for the workers of the world, my children. Trespassing is always the charge on account of the fact that I'll just march right into a factory and speak my mind. Trespassing? Ha! I will tell the truth wherever I please. I'm what's called an agitator. I tell the truth about the wretched conditions for workers and get folks riled up. Man, these pages are stuck together. All right. Well, I've seen a lot of things to get riled up about, but the worst thing I ever saw was in the fabric mills of Philadelphia. I saw young children your age, 9 and 10 years old, who worked like grown-ups, forced to stand on their feet for 10 hours straight, tying threads to spinning spools, reaching their hands inside the dangerous machines that make the fabric, sometimes getting skirts caught, sometimes getting hair caught, sometimes hands or legs. Working for hours and hours, never resting, breathing deadly dust, robbed of their childhoods, robbed of their dreams, and all for a measly 2 cents an hour, while outside the birds sang and the blue sky shone. I saw the gray line of children dressed in rags heading home in the dreary dark of evening. I saw them collapse on their pallets of straw, too tired even to eat, just to be forced back to work at the factory at 5 a.m. I saw burly foremen throwing the tots in through factory doors when they were late, paddling them when they didn't work fast enough. I saw their gnarled little hands, which looked like the hands of someone who'd worked 80 years. I saw their stooped backs and their missing fingers. Children! I saw parents too, standing side by side with their kids. It wasn't that they didn't love their darling babies. It was just that they were paid so little by the factory owners that their children had to work or they would starve. Well, once you've seen cruelty, truly seen it, you can't just walk away. If you can't stop it, you've got to make sure other people see it. And that is what I did. And there's Mother Jones looking in the factory windows. I called the newspapers. Of course, the newspapers were owned by rich folks who were buddies with the rich folks who owned the mills. And so they weren't about to print any stories that made the mill owners look as evil and greedy as they were. So what does that newspaper say? It says, kids enjoy factory work. Money is a powerful thing, but there is power in people. There is power in the union of workers marching side by side, demanding better lives. What? You've never heard of a union? It's like a club of workers, and sometimes the workers in a union walk away from their jobs to protest unfair treatment. That's called a strike. Well, boys and girls, I had an idea for a strike that those newsmen would have to write about in their stinking papers. Listen to mother, I roared at a union meeting, and let me take your kids on a march that the world would never forget. A protest march from Philadelphia to New York City. It's time for folks to see how the rich get richer on the blood and sweat of these poor little children's backs. People cheered and hollered. Oh yes, I'd gotten them riled up. A march it would be. Some parents packed their bags to join us. Others kissed their kids goodbye. And on July 7th, 1903, 100 boys and girls set out, armed only with the knapsacks containing a knife and a fork, a tin cup and plate, and placards and banners that said, "We want time to play, and we want to go to school." At the front were 3 kids dressed like the soldiers from the American Revolution. Why? Because just as the first Americans fought for their freedom, my little revolutionaries were a-fighting for their freedom. Flash bulbs flashed, and before you could say piscataway, we'd gotten our pictures in all the local papers. "Where are you going?" asked a newsman. "We're going to see the president," I told him, and all the kids let out a whoop. This was my new plan. Why stop at New York? Why not march to the fancy schmancy Long Island summer home of President Theodore Roosevelt himself? So onward we marched, and what a sight we must have been. A bunch of scraggly ragamuffins with backpacks out on the open road, led by a crazy old lady. Folks would stand and stare as we passed. Some would cheer us on. Some gave us food. Sometimes train conductors would let us ride for free, just so the kids could rest their poor little feet for a spell. Sometimes we slept in people's barns. Sometimes we camped out underneath the stars. This was the most fun the little tykes had ever had. Mornings, we'd bathe in streams and rivers, the first time the kids had ever been swimming. It makes me weep to think of them. But what they needed wasn't tears. And so in every town, I pulled out my stand, stepped right on up, and proceeded to holler, "Just look at this little chap. He's stooped over like an old man from carrying bundles of yarn that weigh 75 pounds. He gets $3 a week and works in a carpet factory 10 hours a day, while the children of the rich are getting their higher education." And when I got done talking, some of the kids would put on a play. Dressed up like little rich folks and factory owners, they'd prance about and have the crowd in stitches. Then they'd pass the American flag around like a hat so people could throw in nickels and dimes. A lot of money for someone dirt poor. It took us 14 days to march 100 miles in the hot summer sun, sweat pouring off us, soaking our clothes. For 14 days, we put on shows in the towns of Bristol, Morrisville, Trenton, Princeton, New Brunswick, Medicine, Rahway, Elizabeth, Jersey City, Hoboken. For 14 nights, we swatted mosquitoes. A lot of the kids couldn't take it. They headed back home. By the time we crossed the Hudson River on a ferry bound for New York City, there were only 37 kids left and a few tired grown-ups. That didn't matter. Our crusade had made it, but we weren't done. Not hardly. And after we marched up 4th Avenue by torchlight, the parade route lined with 600 cops, we just kept on marching. We did want the president to hear us, but I had promised the parents of those kids to have them back home in 10 days. And we'd already been off on the road for 20. So I sent most of my little troops home. What was left was just a motley crew. 3 boys, me, and a couple of men sneaking through the woods of Long Island. By the time we got to the president's mansion, boy were we tired and dirty. But we'd come this far. Surely he'd agree to see us. We were Americans. We were humans. We stood at the gates and were told that the president was out. We were told we should write him a letter. We were told in so many words to get lost. So this was how my glorious march was to end, with 3 tired children sobbing because they knew they had to go back to the factory. So was the march a failure? Heck no! What we did that summer changed the world. The Children's Crusade shined a great big spotlight on child labor. Decent, good-hearted people finally saw these kids who worked in factories, and that got people thinking, which finally got them demanding laws against child labor, which were: no child under the age of 18 may work a dangerous job. No child under the age of 16 may work during school hours. No child under the age of 14 may work after school hours. And these laws helped get children where they belonged, out of factories and into classrooms. It took nearly 40 years for America to pass these laws. But as they say, the wheels of justice grind slowly, and sometimes you need a strong mother to set them in motion. And even when I'm dead and gone, I will be with you, my children, in the laws that protect you from working in factories. I will abide wherever there's a fight against wrong. I will abide in every fist that's raised against injustice. And that's the end of the book. So that was Mother Jones and her army of mill children. So you notice how the whole book, Mother Jones is speaking and saying, well, I've seen lots of things to get riled up about. This is what I saw. I saw children your age, all of that stuff. That's all Mother Jones talking. So then the reason I don't like reading these kinds of books that's written in first person is because I don't like some of the language that's used in books like these. And when I use I statements and have to say those words, it's a little uncomfortable for me. I'll admit it. I don't like saying that I said this when really it's Mother Jones who said it. Does that make sense? It's a little weird, but if you ever check out a book from the library that's written in first person, that's written like, I went to the park, I went to the beach, books like that, and you read it out loud, see how you feel about it, especially biographies. Because biographies, if they're not written by the person who it's about, which is an autobiography, then is it a little weird that another author, Jonah Winter, writes in the voice of Mother Jones? So, and especially Mother Jones, who has been gone since 1930. It's a little weird for nonfiction, right? Like it's definitely a true story, but Jonah Winter is acting as if he was there, as if he was Mother Jones, which is kind of, I think it works in some ways, but in other ways, I don't really like it. But that's my opinion, and you can make your own opinion. So a couple weeks ago, we read a book that I really didn't like, and we critiqued it, and we worked through it. And you can do the same with this book, because some of this stuff in this book I don't really like. But I really like the message that it comes across, which is that you can speak up for what's right at any age. And if you go on marches and if you protest, it really does make a difference. It might take a really long time. It might take 40 years, but it really does make a difference. So it's a good book, even if I don't like some parts of it, like the fact that it's written in first person. All right, I will see you next week for another Who's Who story time. Bye.